And we are live.
And we are live.
We are live, yes.
On the internet.
Yes.
In real time.
Real time.
Hello, everyone.
Live from the Blender Institute. This is the first live stream we do here at the Blender Developers channel.
Yeah.
And we happen to have a developer. Would you call yourself?
Yeah. So hi,
developer?
everyone. I'm Tom Roosendaal, the chairman of Blender Foundation, original developer of Blender. I'm running now the Blender Institute and the Animation Studio in order to skyrocket Blender into the future.
What a great introduction. Yes. Skyrocket. What does he have to do with rockets?
I don't know,
Why?
rockets. Why? It happened coincidentally, I think.
Yeah.
Some guy in the studio made a design, and then there was a little rocket in it. We thought, oh, that's cool, rockets.
Yeah.
Everybody loves rockets. But we wanted to wait for Elon to send his rocket up, because if that thing would explode, we would have picked a different theme, I think.
It's
right?
it's a good thing that you went fine.
So, thank you, Elon. Yes.
Thank you, Ilan. So we decided to make this live stream just to clear any questions that were left on the Code Quest. This new campaign that is launched by Blender is the first time, right after the first crowdfunding that happened 16 years ago to make Blender open source. Then since then there was no crowdfunding for actually making Blender. Like there were for open movies in 2010, 8 years ago, there was Sintel, which was an open movie to get 2.5 out of beta, out of alpha even. So now this is the first time.
It's a good question. I didn't realize that.
It's the very first time.
So I never thought could do a campaign like 2002 again. That was so massive. I thought, well, you cannot do that every year. That's too much. And the open movie concept worked out fantastic because people really like to support those little projects, and you got a little film, very tangible, and it appeared clearly to help Blender forward. But for this stage, for 2.8, we wanted to connect it to Spring, the current open movie we are making here, but also that is not working fast enough. We have 1 or 2 developers in the studio who can work on it, but 2.8 is massive.
Yeah.
It's really big. We already have online 8 people working full-time on 2.8.
8 people are working on Blender full-time.
But in all different places. And you can see online when they're discussing on things, when they're having architectural discussions. It's complicated. It's really complicated. And we had Dalai working here for 1 year, remember?
Live Edito, yes.
And we spent so many hours on architecture and reviewing and making diagrams and looking at the structure to really figure out if we're doing the best, if it's really going to work well. But Dalai had to go back to Brazil, social life, you know.
Yeah, actual life,
Yeah, and then those things slowed down. Right? It just feels like I missed the focus and the speed of working, what you can do if you put people together. So in February I thought, if we move on with this speed, 2.8 will take another year, at least. Yeah. So it's best to do something to speed it up. And what would be better than having everybody, all the full-time developers coming to Amsterdam not for a week or for a workshop, not for a month, because it will take a month to get over everything, but for 3 months at least.
At least.
Yeah, and put them on a target to get 2.8 done this summer. Because specifically, I want it to be released at SIGGRAPH in Vancouver in August.
In August. What do you mean by released? Is it final? No, alpha,
beta, alpha, something. A usable version.
Something you can use, not for production maybe, but...
It might not for production too, because we will use it here in the studio.
Yeah.
So the guys who are working on Spring will suffer. Like no one ever before suffered. And they already suffer, right? They know. They call it the Blender open movie experience. You have to suffer. But what they do is similar to what all Blender users have to suffer too. Right? Yeah. They suffer bad software, and then we can better suffer first ourselves and fix all the stuff before you make everybody else suffer.
Yeah.
So.
Because especially at the very beginning, many of the things are so basic in a way that, like, why making everybody suffer? So that way we did it. I remember for Sintel, 2.5, all the tools from 2.5, 2.4 had to be ported over 2.5.
Everyone, each of them, one by one.
Yes.
So you were missing, like, there's thousands of tools around them.
Yeah.
And then you had only like half of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And which ones? Yeah, the ones you
Exactly.
probably need. And then you need one more and one more and one more.
So having Campbell, especially Campbell and Brecht here, Campbell especially having here,
and Brecht we had here. And,
Yeah.
and I was coding.
you were coding, so
Yeah.
it was 3 developers. Here, every day, it was amazing because I remember not even like unwrap was there. So it's like, Campbell,
Yeah.
can you add unwrap?
Oh,
Okay,
Jesus.
unwrap.
Yeah.
So it was really basic stuff. So having people here. So how did it all start? Is this Blender 2.8 code quest? Why is it a quest? What is a quest? It's an
Yeah, but
adventure.
yeah, of course. The first thing I always do if you start a project is you have to get a name.
A name.
Without a good name, I don't want to do a project.
Yeah.
So we were looking at a spring thing, sprint, but that was all too much complicated.
Yeah.
And it's not a sprint. A sprint is 2 or 3 days or a week developers together. It's more like a big thing.
It's an adventure, isn't it?
And as usual, we do things nobody else did before. Right? This is so we are going to call this a code quest, not a sprint. It's a quest to abduct all the core developers of an open source project, put them in one place together, and give them a big task, which is really big enough for them to work a couple of months on. So
Awesome.
that's of course curious how far they will get, but I know that the architecture is mostly finished.
Yeah.
There are some details, a lot of details that are unclear often. That's why we have to get them together. But the core of 2.8, I think, is there. But as usual, for every project, the last 10% is 10 times more work than the first 90%.
Yeah.
So it's always the last bit, and the last bits will be the difference between a theoretical design, which could work, and software you can actively use every day.
Yeah.
And that part, to make it really usable, test it
Yes.
in production, and give it to artists, and make sure that people will be happy to use it every day.
Yeah.
That's what the code quest will do.
Yes, because Blender 2.8 development is already happening for over 2 years, right?
Yeah, we started in 2016, I
16.
think. Yeah.
So this is why it's important to bring everybody together and finish this once and for all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, I also want to get more excitement for all the other aspects of 2.8. And we have Eevee, which is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Yes.
We have, of course, the Grease Pencil, a little bit less known, but in the animation world. I was at a conference 2 days in Brussels, animation convention festival. And if you show them the Grease Pencil demos, everybody's like, oh my God, what is this? I've never seen this. And this will help our workflow so much if we can get this 3D integrated to the virtual environment. So those 2 things are important, but there are many more things going on.
Yeah.
So behind the scenes, there's somebody coding the dependency graph. And nobody knows, what is it? What is the
What is the
dependency graph
dependency
about?
graph? Yes.
Why am I doing it? The Russian says it every day, why am I doing this? Sometimes he forgets. But it's basically the animation system in Blender. The dependency graph means you have a property that updates animation, and you want the changes, everything that's related to it, to update correctly and as fast as possible. That means multi-threaded. That also means sometimes you have to copy data and then apply it in a smart way, because your viewport might show something else than the render.
Yeah.
A good example is people who are using cycles with hair. If you have hair on a higher detail level than in the viewport, when you render things, then the hair disappears in the viewport. Or you cannot even have 2 viewports in Blender with different settings. Like for real-time playback, one window and one window that shows in OpenGL how it would look like rendered. Or having a viewport with cycles updating it in a certain reasonable render quality, which is different than what you want to have in final rendering.
Yeah.
So all those render qualities, to manage that, is what the dependency graph is doing.
But it would also solve the problem that you can't have multiple characters, I don't know, like duplicated. have a character, the same rig, but multiple actions, for example.
For example.
That problem has been happening forever. That will be solved.
Yeah, and to get all the proxies,
Yeah.
for example. And one super exciting feature will be that every window in Blender, if you have two monitors, you can put two separate windows there. You can give every window a complete different time.
Yeah.
So you can have the same scene, or two different scenes, but in the same data,
A different
displayed in
frame.
two different times. So you can have one window with the animation playing,
Yeah.
and then another one that shows the keyframes and the still pose. And you move the pose around, you can do things, and the animation will update.
Magic.
So I haven't seen that, but that's anywhere. Maybe
Yeah.
it works in Disney and Pixar, I don't know.
We'll see.
But
What
we
else?
will get that work within weeks.
Within weeks.
I bet, yeah. Maybe it already works, but he doesn't show it.
Wow. So we have Eevee. We have we
Grease
say we
pencil.
have Eevee, grease pencil, so 2D animation. We have dependency graph, so awesome animation
And
stuff.
you got assets, for example.
Asset management.
That's what
Asset management, that's a
Bastian
big
is working
one.
on for years.
Yes.
It's also very hidden. Not many people know about it. I think he likes that a little bit. Developers.
Less pressure, yeah, it's not like
but
making
developers want to
demo,
code and they don't want people to breathe down
Yeah.
their necks all the time. But it's about time to start really bothering him because this asset system has to get used and it has to lead to really nice interfaces.
Yeah.
And one of the things people find Blender a little bit difficult to use in is that we don't have a good way to present presets. Other software, whether it's Cinema 4D or Substance Painter, that kind
Anything.
of programs, you start them up and you get this really nice previews with list of materials and textures and things. You click on them, you drag and drop, you edit, and that makes it pleasant to use. Not only for new users, that you can quickly understand what goes on, but for people who have to work every day on unwrapping and texturing or on shading or whatever, modeling, it's
Yeah, or-
important to have your interface that way.
Yeah, or making a simple glass shader or a simple toon shader. Have presets for that and making your own. That's very important. Especially if you work in like a big production, you have characters that are already set up, or you even have a character with variations, for example. So that is very.
Well, the same
that's a
thing
big
for
one.
the post library is a good example of assets. But you also have external files a lot. The asset manager has to make sure that external files are accessible.
Yeah.
And that you can set up a project and say, okay guys, we're going to use these textures and these shaders and these models and whatever. So you make a number of standard looks, shaders as assets or lighting setups. You can make everything an asset. And then you can import them in your project without having to worry about all the linking of data and that kind of things. It will be like having an unlimited custom set of primitives for models, shaders, everything. Node groups, whatever it is. So, that's number 4.
Number 4.
So,
5.
yeah, the continuing is of course the whole view, layers and collections and the render engine. So the Blender layer system has been kicked out and replaced by a modern system. People at first said, I want to give layers a name. What? Why can't I give them a name? That's how it started. Yeah, you want to have a named layer, okay? But there are more things you want to do with layers. And if you study how modern 3D tools are working with layers, it is more with a layer you group like how something is being displayed. That's the basic thing. So a layer is, so you have your view, or whether that's a rendering or part of the compositor. A layer is a view on your data set. You have a scene, and you say, I'll make a layer, and that layer is a representation of what that scene
What is in the
doing.
scene,
And it can be different types of representations. So you can have multi-layer. We already have that in Blender for rendering, multi-layer rendering. So one scene can create multiple pictures, and these you then can composite. Now, similar we have now in Blender, totally integrated. All the viewports have layers, and you can have as many layers as you want, and every layer is a way to look at your scene. And that can be anything. It can also be like, I want to look at this scene as in wireframes, or I want to look at it as an EV, or I want to look at it as... But
Yeah,
you can also say, I want to have collections, as a new concept.
Yeah.
You have groups of objects. They can be automatic groups, like all the lamps, or you can manually collect collections. And you say, well, in this layer I only want to have collections A, B, and C, and in another layer I want to have collections D, E, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It will help you organizing your work, that's workflow related, but it also helps you organizing rendering, for example.
Yeah, anything.
Short anything.
Awesome. So I think we cover most of the big things. Collections, animation, 2D animation, EV.
One more.
One more.
It's the configuration and 101.
101, the 101 project.
So the last thing is that it's the workspace in Blender, but also there is a concept of application manager. It's what Campbell is working on. And the application manager means that you can define how you want Blender to start. And that can be with template files. You can define, okay, I want Blender to start, but it configures itself completely how I want it to be.
Yeah.
And that can also be with the whole UI layout, but it can also be with your own key maps. But you can even, that's what we still have to work on, to complete, to hide 99.9% of the whole UI, and simply start Blender only with 2 features.
Wow.
Which is interesting for people who want to make their own level editors, for example, or people who want to optimize Blender for their own tasks.
Yeah.
And of course, people who like to, for 3D printing, but also for people who like to give training.
Yeah, for teaching, especially teaching very, very beginners, even like 4-year-olds, 6-year-old, they already know how to play with the phone. So if they could get Blender to, with 5 buttons to make cubes and add colors, that...
Yeah, I want to work with trainers to make and design a test for the simplest 3D interfaces you can think of that will make it fun for kids to play with, so that they can learn the concept of 3D, looking around and navigating.
Yeah.
And for example, it could be as simple as that you have a little UI with pictures of little models, and you drag them into the 3D window. Physics is on, so they will drop on the floor, and that's where they are.
That's it.
So just drop. And then the second thing I think, okay, well maybe you can click on one and they will become active with a little manipulator thing on it, and you can move them around. But physics can keep playing. That's it. Right? Next step, maybe you can give them a color.
Yeah.
So you have a second UI that has colors, and you drop colors on the models. So you have physics, you can move things around, and you can color things. That's it. So I think that's already interesting for people to play with.
Yeah.
And it's going to be educational because you have to navigate, you have to look around, you can look, maybe you can start making a stack, and then you drop it, and you fall, and then you can think of maybe physics, or a slider for gravity, or that kind of thing. So that's the thing I think people like to see in schools.
Yeah.
And the best thing is that we can do that with a full, compatible Blender version. It's the official release. That means that you don't have to worry about installing special types of software. You have one Blender, and you have multiple application managers. And every application manager will start Blender in a way that you want it to be.
But it will still be the main Blender, so it will be 280, 281, 82, but with your own application template.
Yeah, or if you are a teacher, if the students are really smart and do everything superior, you just say, here, this Blender itself. Start going ahead, right?
Because it will always be the same Blender, just with a different template. So you can always, even if you have the Blender for 3D printing, you can always go and switch it to the full Blender, the one, the classic. How are we going to call it?
Yeah.
Classic, old, legacy, awesome.
Yeah, and that's this whole open source philosophy of making software free available for everyone. That's why it's so important, because no commercial vendor will ever make like a stripped down Maya and give it to high schools, and then allow them the option to expand it and have the whole Maya for free. And they can use it, take it home, they can download stuff on the internet. This is why we have open source.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's 5.
Yeah, that's all
6. We have cycles, of course.
Cycles, well, cycles we're getting perfect, yes. But it will always get better. Then I think we can already start with some of the questions that people have.
Sure. Other
Right,
questions?
Yes, there is. The
any-
main one.
Is anyone listening?
The main one.
Yeah, okay.
Is like, when will Blender 2.8 be released?
Is that the question?
That's one of the questions, yes.
Yeah, so what is a release?
What
That's
is
good
a release?
question.
Define release.
What's a release? Do people know that there is a website called builder.blender.org, which is where we have our daily builds. Every day, sometimes more times per day, you can get the latest version, fresh from the lab. We have the computers here. They are building Blender continuously.
Yeah.
Of course, it's risky because you get something that might not work or might work. On the other hand, I think a lot of people are using it, and especially we here in the studio are using it. So if there's anything wrong, we can find out very quick.
Yes.
So 2.8, during the whole code quest, every day, every hour, whatever, there will be a build available for people. So they can monitor the progress. We will make sure that there's good documentation or updates that they can follow.
So the answer is it will be released
all the time.
every day, every hour.
But of course, everybody wants to know what is the official release.
Official release, the one we can actually use.
Well, I love deadlines.
Yes.
I love deadlines.
For the user, of
So
course.
you first say, this is the deadline, and then everybody starts getting nervous. And I think SIGGRAPH is a great deadline.
SIGGRAPH is August 14, 16?
14, 10 to 15,
10
12,
to 16 or
12
something.
to, you can Google it.
Yes. So mid-August.
Yeah, it's 10 August or so.
Mid-August,
Yeah.
let's say.
So we want to have a release of Blender, whether we call that beta,
Beta.
1, 2.80, 2.81, we have to make a number of versions.
Yeah.
And that is going to be the first Blender 2.8 release.
Wow.
But maybe all the developers who are listening and are screaming and
Yes.
like, oh my God, Tom, you cannot say that because we might not be done and it will never be good. And I know, but that's the challenge.
Yeah.
And that's why everybody is buying little rockets, because the developers will feel so guilty, right? They think, oh my God, the community is supporting us so fantastic. We have to make 2.8 work.
Yes.
And that goes both ways. This is.
And at the moment, there is 527 people that will be disappointed. But actually,
Yeah, there will be 2,000. I bet this goes to 2,000.
Yes, actually, one of the questions is related to that, but more of the success of the code quest. So, what is the minimum goal that you will consider? Is it like, what is the minimum for the code quest to be successful?
1,000.
No, but like, what is the outcome of the code quest?
Oh, you mean how many rockets we want to sell? I thought. No, but the question is, what is the outcome in technical?
What is the minimum goal that must be reached for the code quest to be successful? Not in terms of sales, but if the code quest,
like
I don't know, maybe
working software.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, EV,
Yes.
assets,
Yes.
graph,
Yes. Everything.
grease pencil,
So nothing can fail.
and the workspace with the layers and everything.
Yes.
That all of that.
Everything.
Yeah, of
So
course.
that's a successful
That's the
code quest.
minimum. But of course,
You heard it. It's saved. It's recorded, right?
Yeah, it's
Forever.
recorded. It's the minimum. And of course, you can discuss like, okay, but how much of that do you want to have? Working?
Yes.
But there's always things, details like we can recode the tool system to make it automatically use visible manipulators, for example.
Oh yeah.
And then with the whole top bar and ways to have redo. And those are kind of designs are a little bit confusing still. I don't think they are finished. And they might add a lot of extra work. So some of the smaller features, they have a big impact on workflow, but they're still relatively small, might be postponed to a follow-up release. But they are not blocking, right? The step forward on 2.8 is massive. And after that, of course, you get 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4 with all kinds of exciting new updates. So, but the core stays there. We have to get this. We have to get the workspaces and the layers and the engines there. We have to get a workbench engine. That's still an unsolved issue. And because we have Eevee, we can work on Eevee, but it's not always optimal for texturing and stuff. Now we have the clay engine, which is only for the test. And the workbench engine is what we are working on. We still have to find somebody or assign somebody to it. And that means basically everything we had already, but they're better.
Like the old solid view.
Solid with wire overlay, with wire selecting, or we have that already, I think. But also solid with some simple shadow.
It's like a solid, but
texture.
Completely, yeah.
So a lot of tools depend on a limited visualization to make the tool clear.
Yeah.
And Workbench also means workbench, literally. So you have fixed light, and you set up an environment that you can really start modeling.
Yeah.
So that you have no distraction of how the actual environment is being rendered.
Yeah, like solid view now in Blender 2.7. So this will basically would be like a stripped down Eevee, I guess. Under the hood it will be the new.
Yeah, because we can add some nice reflection on the floor, shadow, that kind of thing.
We can borrow some cool stuff, but it should be
but fully real time. So you don't want to have any moment that you say, please wait, updating shaders, that kind of thing.
It will be real time. So you should be as fast as Blender 2.7 solid mode.
The other big challenge is hair and particles.
You said it.
There's a Russian here in the back complaining and cursing, and he's not watching the stream, right? So,
I hope not.
No, he's not watching the stream. He's working, but he's complaining all the time. Of course, that's why he's Russian. And well, that's Italian to complain. Italians complain, right? Russians are more like depressed, and they only see the bad side of things.
No, they work.
They like
work
to
hard.
suffer really bad. But they're really good, of course.
They're amazing. That thanks to them.
They're the best. But he's working on fixing hair things for Andy. Andy's doing grooming for a girl for spring. And of course, this is going to be amazing. And Andy also likes to push the limit and really make something look like as if it's a Pixar movie. And they're not using Pixar software, but they are using Blender. So he's suffering,
even better,
and everybody will benefit.
Awesome.
So the goal is not to recode the whole hair system, a particle system. And those projects have been started years ago, but they also end up in the complexity and the scale, which is a bit out of focus. So we asked Mai Lavelle, the famous coder of cycles, macro.
Micropolygon, displacement,
to work on getting the 2.7 particle and hair system, box it up with a ribbon, and put it into the 2.8 code base in a way that it's compatible and works. And then we can set up a project to replace the whole particle and hair system in time, and then you can just simply throw the box away. And,
nice. So it's like a transition, between systems. That's amazing.
So the old hair system is.
No, and we already tried. Like developers tried during Gooseberry. So it's cool. It reminds me in Blender 2.5, we Brecht tried to make the Blender internal have like bounces and irradiance cache.
And that was fantastic.
That failed, and then cycles came out of it. So we tried to fix the hair for Gooseberry, that failed, and now a new one is coming. So I have faith. Faith.
This, I don't know if people know, but it's a very well-known and sad fact in software development that every time you want to move on one generation with the software, the amount of time and effort you have to put in it goes like exponential. And it's actually the first particle system in Blender. I can joke about it, but it's really true. I added that in a few days. Really.
In a few days?
A few days, a couple of days, you add a particle system. Blender was simple. It was all my software. Particles, velocity, points, drawing. You type, code, and you have a particle system. The second part, well, that's not a very good one. The second particle system was added by Jana. And that's the one we still use.
But
it was done for Big Bad Bunny.
The second. So your particle system that you made in a few days, it was used in Elephant's Dream.
Yeah, it was used in Elephant's Dream. We used it for 10 years. So Jana added the second.
Yeah.
And he, thanks to that, we had fur on the bunny, and we had grass and leaves and things. So voids, all kinds of things. That particle system, hair combing, tools, all what he did. And that lasts already 12 years, right? Yeah. We already have that for 12 years.
12 years.
So it's really over the time, right? It's convoluted, and people have been trying to fix things and make it work, and the code is impossible.
Impossible.
So everybody thinks, okay, time to make the third generation, right? And then suddenly the third generation is not one person working on it for like a year or so. So now you have to get like 4 years of one person or 4 people working on it for 1 year to make a particle system that's better than the previous one.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can make a crappy one, okay, but if you want to make a better one in a better design, it takes like 4 times more.
Oh, okay.
And that's a bit of a problem with software.
Yeah. Next question. So the goal is to get 1,000 rockets sold. Done.
I'm doing something, yeah?
Yeah. Okay. It's power.
What's that?
Yes. That's
That was
good.
the power.
Yes.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yeah.
So the first goal is to get 1,000 rockets sold. What happens if you reach more? What happens? What is the next goal?
Yeah, so we're still talking to a number of bigger sponsors. We send it to our big friends in America and everywhere in studios. They're all thinking about it. I'm not going to announce anything yet. So their help is essential. We need that. So, but as a good backup, I would say let's get that target move to 2,000.
Yeah.
That will make us much more independent. I mean, the foundation has a backup. We have donations. The foundation has income from the STEAM workshop, for example, and some other bigger sponsors. So in the worst case, we can spend all our backup funding on getting everybody to Amsterdam or finish the code quest. But I would rather not invest all our reserves only in those. And that's why we are launching this campaign and asking sponsors. So what will happen if we go past the 1,000? Well, mostly it will be more relaxing for everyone. We don't have to stretch our budget that much. But I also think we can much easier than decide to get in more people as well. I would love to invite a couple of other developers to give them a plane ticket, to come to Amsterdam and the room, to work with the team for 1 or 2 weeks with us on more specialist topics.
Yeah.
And there's of course the game engine. There is a
Blender game engine. That's a hot topic.
But there is a budget, a pot of money from donations. I'm saving it up for getting a developer paid to work on upgrading or bringing back a new game engine, preferably. New logic, with nodes.
New logic.
Modern logic
Eevee.
system. Using Eevee, using Blender shaders, using the depth graph. Just nicely integrated, but as a game engine. So you can use it for prototyping, as you can do now. You can do all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah.
Plus, we should work on getting very efficient export to WebGL.
WebGL, so to put it online.
Yeah. I don't know how GLTF or working with the WebGL consortium or getting our own web player. I don't know. We have Sketchfab, and there is Blend for Web, and there's a couple of other solutions. But interactive 3D is and stays very important. Yeah,
awesome. So that's great news that there's light at the end of the tunnel for the Blender game engine.
And of course, if you have all those developers here, what do you think of? Maybe we can keep them a little bit longer, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Since they're here hanging out,
because the deadline is 10 August, and the code quest will be April, May, June, and that's July. What everybody going to do in July, right? So we can also keep them 1 month.
Yes.
And then make 2.8 even more awesome.
Even awesomer.
Awesome. So please keep supporting us.
Keep supporting, yes.
The money will be spent well.
Awesome. There is a question regarding that. So there is how much feedback will the community of users be able to give during this period? It sounds like lots of important aspects of Blender is going to get worked out. So how much feedback is it going to be?
So the most important is, of course, that we get users to come over, designers, and we have users in the studio. And all those people are very public. They have social media, they look around, and they are not going to be deciding stupid things.
Yeah.
Second, we are working on adding a devtalk.blender.org website. I think it's already there.
It's it's been tested. Yeah.
So we're adding our own Discours forums for users and developers to chat, to talk together. It's just this cool forum system, but it's more friendly than normal forum systems. Because we really want to reach out in a more modern and accessible way to people who want to be involved. It's mostly for developers, to get more developers on board, but a lot of technical users who understand how software design works or how to improve tools, they're all welcome to come over
to hang out there.
Help out the developers.
Yeah, it's not like, what is the difference between developer.blender.org and this new dev talk for people?
But we still have the mailing list.
Right?
And I can only recommend everybody go to wiki.blender.org. There is a developers thing where you can click on contact developers, it says on the front page. Click, and you get 7 or 8 mailing lists. And there's a mailing list for interface, for animation, for grease pencil, for modeling, for everything. All the subtopics have lists. Those lists are managed by the developers who are working on it, and users and developers are meant to work together here on questions for usability and for work we are doing.
Yeah, I still think that a forum will bring more people and more action.
Apparently, young people don't use email anymore. Jesus Christ! But that's the issue. That's why this school might work better for this. We are going to test this.
We are going to test this.
And I hope people understand that the focus should be on helping the developers to do their work. And it's not so much a feature request circus, right? It's not like, oh, I got a great idea, can you code it for me? There's not time for that, I think.
But what if 1,000 people are backing up this idea?
But what is an idea we didn't think of yet? That 1,000 people might scream about, then we will do it, of course.
Like right-click, select?
Name, huh?
No, right-click, select? No.
Right-click, select. That website is fun. Huh?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, the goal is not so much to listen to the users, I'm sorry users, but the goal is to make the best software for the users. And you have to give, there's a two-sided thing, you have to give developers and the people who make the software a little bit of room and space to develop what they think might be the best way. And the most important thing, and we can do that in open source, is that users who are involved can see what happens and test the software and then give feedback, and then you get development cycles. Then things move forward. That works better than somebody saying, hey, I have an idea, please code it. And then it's like, yeah, but it doesn't fit in the architecture, or it's not in the planning, or this is complicated. But if you go with the flow, right, like we say, okay, it's all about assets. As I said, it's easy, it's shader design, it's node systems, it's all those things, we have to solve those. That's where we need help with. Especially on good UI design, good mock-ups of how to make the best layout for usable presentation of all the new features. Totally welcome, that kind of things.
Awesome.
Huh?
Yes. Is the rocket 3D printed? And the rocket is actually made of PVC. And we would like to announce that in the page, actually when you browse the page, it says 8 gigs, but it actually is going to be 16 gigs.
16.
16, yes.
What are you going to put on it? 16.
16.
You know how big Blender is?
Blender fits in a floppy now. No?
Yeah, 120 megabytes.
120 megabytes.
So you can put 1,000 Blender. Oh no.
No worry, there is 8 movies we can put in.
You can
there
put
is
100 Blender versions on it. That's not a lot. No, you need 16 gigs.
Yes.
And you can have all the Blender versions from day one.
Yes.
And all the open movies.
Yes. All the open or anything, like we can also put, I don't know, training, there is a Blender Fundamentals. Some people were suggesting we put Blender 2.8 there, but the thing is that it will be too early and it might be a bit confusing. It will be a bit confusing. It's also not working fast on a Mac yet.
We can't wait, but my idea was to stop with the campaign in a couple of weeks and give the job to the printer to start making the rocket next month.
March. March.
And then in April we ship everybody the rockets.
Yeah.
So during the Code Quest, you can have your little rocket on the table to show your support.
Yes.
And to watch what the result is of this, which is cooler. Because why would you want to have 2.8 on a sticky like 5 weeks after that we release it? Because we were not going to wait with releasing Blender by putting it first on little
On the
rockets,
floppy, yeah,
right?
no.
That's not very useful.
No.
So we released Blender online, and everybody will download it
Yes.
immediate, and you already have a rocket.
Yes. So
So-
you can have the rocket with the open movies. You put it on your TV and you watch them all of back to back, all 9 of them actually.
But
and also
a lot
the
of
other 8.
we previously showed the Blender demo stick,
Yeah.
the demo USB stick, and it was also very popular to take it anywhere because especially on Windows and Mac, you plug in the USB. Oh, Linux too. Plug in the USB, you can have everything unpacked there, and you can click on Blender, and it runs from the USB
without actually
without
installing
installation.
it. Yeah.
And you can freak out everybody with that because this is not very normal for application.
No.
They don't need installation.
All the apps usually need to be installed, but this way you can have as many versions as you want. So
But I expect most people will keep the rocket and put it on their desk and sit and watch
Yes.
it every day. And
Yes.
think, this was so cool.
watch it every day.
This
You can
is
paint
the
it. You can put a
best
name
thing
to
ever.
it.
I want to have 2 at least.
At least
Yeah, you should have 2.
one
of
on,
those.
on each side.
Yeah, each side of your screen.
Did
right?
you order yours
No,
already?
no, I have to order them still. I will order them. Yeah.
Awesome. The next question actually is related to what we talked before. Are you planning to revamp the animation system? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Revamp. Yes. Is that true? Revamp the animation system.
But what does it mean? Does the question who has that question? An animator or a rigger or a coder or a
Somebody said that we should tell you the magic words animation 2020.
2020. Yes, of course, 2020.
What is that?
That's what I always start with a name. What?
Yeah.
Animation 2020. That's just a cool name for a project. And that means making animation tools that will survive 10 years for a whole decade in the 20s.
In the 20s. That is mind blowing. What does it mean?
So we already know how to do
Now
that.
you have the cool name, so what does it
But
actually mean?
I also wrote that we first get 2.8 set up, right? We have to get the 2.8 project running, and when that feels like we are on track, I will start looking at 2020. And the idea is to talk to a couple of very experienced character riggers from big studios. I've been talking to Nimble Collective, for example, already, but we'll talk to more. The people who come from the industry and who have taken part in or who are very close to designing the top animation tools as being used now in Pixar and DreamWorks and other big studios.
So the best of everything.
It's like Presto and Primo, they are called.
Yeah.
You can get some videos on YouTube, especially from Primo. I think they posted nice videos. Presto is a bit more secret.
Presto
I
is
think
the one from Pixar.
Yeah.
Primo. And we have Prug. We can call it Prug.
Yeah. Presto, Primo, and
Prug.
Prug. Yeah. Or Pasta.
Or Pasta.
Primo.
Presto.
Or
No.
Presto. But they are both Italian words, Presto and Primo, right?
Yeah. Well, you can call it Pesto.
Primo is first, and Presto is ready.
Quick.
Quit.
Yes.
Quit?
We have an Italian in the house here to talk things.
But you say pick up the phone, you say presto. Oh no,
Yeah.
you say prego. Pronto.
Yes.
Ah, that's what we call it. Pronto.
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 Yes.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Pronto.
Yeah, in Spanish it means soon.
Yeah.
Pronto. So
Pronto.
it's even
Ah,
better.
pronto.
Yes. So
Okay,
animation 2020.
So animation 2020. So what I think is worrying in Blender is the complexity of making character rigs. It's really hard and it's a little bit too difficult. We have to review the way how armatures are built and how we work with bones and constraints and drivers and those kind of things. Also actions and the animation curves, how these work, and the analysis system.
Yeah.
So we have a number of advanced tools, but not all of them really work.
Are
Like
easy
NLA
to-
disappeared a little bit. And the way of how people think of how animation tools should work and how animators like to work has evolved in the past 20 years. And I think most of the design of the Blender character rig system is from the 90s.
Wow.
And I think
Yes.
that's getting a little bit ancient. There are Blender users who were born in the 2000s, right? So it's about
Ha.
time to think of a better way to do this.
Yes. Awesome.
But also that will be all done in public too.
Yeah.
That is the animation system mailing list, and soon also on the Discourse forums. People can start talking about, hey, I'm available, or if I can help, or maybe somebody who's working for DreamWorks or Pixar thinks, I'm going to quit my job
Yes.
and I come over to Amsterdam to help you guys.
Yes.
You're welcome. And even better, we can get Softy Mice developers.
Oh, poor.
They're hiding
Softy
somewhere.
Mice,
So
they're
hey, Softy Mice coders, if you see this, you've been doing the best job on the most popular, most well-designed 3D software out there. Autodesk killed it, which is a shame. So come back. Blender will make it possible to lift up the quality of Blender beyond what Softy Mice had.
Yes.
And we call that the Animation 2020.
Yes, not ice, but nice.
Yes.
Yeah, let's call
Okay.
it. There you go. Also, regarding animation tools, we can also get Daniel Martinez Lara. He was working on Easy Rigging, an add-on to make rigging easy, actually. So
super.
he
And
should.
his adding scope is also super.
Amazing, So we should definitely. He will be like a big part of it. So
Good
yes.
idea. Good idea.
Next question: when will the 2.8 tracker be open for all the users, for people to report, or should they use Discourse instead?
I have no idea.
The tracker.
So the bug tracker is currently closed, but we cannot. We don't have time to handle bugs.
Blender 2.8 bugs. Yeah.
So I think this is something when the code quest starts, we put that on the discussion weekly meeting, whatever, of the developers to find that moment as quick as possible. And we have to make a couple of decisions. I think the main moment when we should start accepting bugs is when we wrap up the current master, the 2.79 thing, and call that a branch, and then turn 2.8 into master.
Wow.
Right? That's a big moment. And that will happen, I think, after the code quest starts, right? Somewhere. Everybody's here, and there will be a moment after a month, a week, I don't know, when the of 2.8 will become official master. And then we have to accept bugs. It seems like a plan, right?
Yes, I remember when that happened. But still, if there is like a very, critical fixes in 279, there might be at some point actually 279A is coming out this week, but this week or in these coming days, but then like happened in 249B.
It's also possible we make a 79B.
Yeah, if there's like critical bugs, and for people that are still using 279 in production on their own projects and they are not ready to move to 2.8, there will be extended support for 279.
But I hope not. I think the goal would be that we make an A only this week, and that's it. Because the code quest will make 2.8 happen.
And it takes time from the developers to make
it takes too much time.
Cool. We have a last question. The last question.
Is already...
It's almost an hour. We want to keep it in a 1 hour time. If there are more questions, we can see how we answer them. So the next question is where go to learn about the upcoming or wanted features. For example, UDIM in Blender 2.8.
Yeah, it's a patch already. It's waiting for review. There's some tweaks and stuff. And the person who submitted it is too busy at the moment. He's also a student, and he's helping a couple of studios already. He's been hired by 2 studios actually.
2 studios,
So
okay, not doing
I have no idea how he's combining that with his study. But UDIM is definitely on the list to add to 2.8.
Cool. So where do we go to learn about this cool stuff? How do people find out that UDIM is being worked on?
How do you find
Developer.blender.org maybe?
Blender.org/2.8, right? That's the main page where you can see the overview. The day-to-day, we have the code blog where you can read more about the architectures and the design. If you have Twitter, you can have a weekly tweet with a link to the development meeting log.
Yes.
But the meeting log is important for the daily decisions. There's even week in Blender Twitter.
Yes, which is actually in the developers blog.
I
put
don't
it
know
up
if
here.
that thing is also on Facebook.
It's no, it's in the Blender developers in the blog.
Okay,
You can find it. It's there. Yeah. It's,
But are we
this week
doing
in Blender.
Facebook stuff or not?
We are doing Facebook. Yeah, there is there is a Facebook on Blender.org at the bottom. You can find all the links to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
The only thing I learned from a 14-year-old intern here is that we all have to move to Instagram, right? We have to move to Instagram.
Yeah, we have to. Like, I'm on Instagram already.
I've got an account on Instagram. Yes, I've got an Instagram account, but I don't know what to do with it. What are we going to do with Instagram?
You take pictures of food.
And you take pictures and you put it on.
Yeah.
So maybe we can have an Instagram with the daily 2.8 screenshots or so.
Wow, would people follow that?
Huh?
Yeah, maybe.
The screenshots with arrows to say, here, there's a new feature there or so. I don't know.
But maybe daily vlogs here in the channel, in Blender Developers channel, maybe this will be the main place where we are going to discuss all the...
But it's a good point. We have to make sure that our logs and our presentation of what we are working on for 2.8 is clear.
Yeah.
So if we get all those developers in Amsterdam, we can also assign one person to do active logging and blogging and articles writing.
Yeah, or go with the camera and bother the developers there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know a person.
This has to go.
I know a person. Yeah. Maybe.
So we are going to be very, very visible.
Yes.
And the code quest is going to be something you will enjoy watching online, I'm sure.
Yeah, it will be like a telenovela, follow what happens there. Tune in next week,
Yeah, people can vote one developer out every week. No.
Leaves the house. This is nominate. No, okay. And the very, very final question, actually. How does Blender connect with other projects, just like Godot engine or Krita, or ABG? How does Blender connect with them?
Yeah, so one of the things for the game engine project, what we were looking at as well, was to make sure that we export really well and align very well with the current game engines out there, like Godot and but also Blend for Web or Sketchfab or online game engines. Godot is doing fantastic. I hear good stuff of it, but also there is the one from.
Engine.
Whether
game engine, no.
The game engine from
Crystal Space.
Lubos.
Yeah.
I cannot think of the name anymore.
Yes.
Lubos,
Well, that one.
something. I will think about it in a few seconds.
Yeah.
So this is all part of your workflow. But I hope to get the attention and feedback and help from those projects as well. Right? But I think things are working quite good. I don't know.
Yeah.
But export to Godot, it goes via Collada files.
Yeah.
And there's a script apparently that was fine.
Yeah, actually the main developer of Godot, he made the script and he was asking for help in the community on Twitter.
So that's doing good.
Yeah.
So I don't know what further the person wants to know, because Krita and Blender, there's no problem between that, is it?
No, but like in open source project, do you talk to each other, you hang out?
Yeah, the main Krita developer is from Holland, and he's welcome to visit here. He was here a couple of times.
Yeah.
But,
so maybe one day when we have a big office, we can all live together in one.
Should we talk about our new office?
Oh, is that a spoiler?
No, spoiler.
No.
But we are working on, of course, for the Code Quest, we need to get a lot of people extra here.
Yeah.
The Blender Institute here is too small, and we are growing a little bit, so we are looking at a bigger place here in the city.
Yeah.
Also to celebrate how awesome the Code Quest is, to have a nice, fresh place with daylight, windows, fresh air. The only thing we cannot fix is the Dutch weather.
Dutch weather. We can wait. It's all right. We can live with that. Yeah. So I think we can wrap this up. It's been 1 hour. I hope all the questions that you had were answered.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. You like this? Want to do it next week?
We can do that again when the Code Quest is over.
When it's over, or when it's halfway.
Every week during the Code Quest, you can do a little update.
I can keep doing it.
Feature every developer. You should have one of these with Sergey, and one with Campbell, and one with, of course.
Yeah, with everyone.
It will be big fun.
Yeah.
And then we have 8 developers here, and then there's 2 months, right?
Yeah.
And then
we can do all.
Yeah, so there will be time enough to do all of
Yes.
it.
So subscribe to this channel, to Blender Developers channel, if you want to follow what's happening in Blender 2.8. Give it a like, subscribe. Thank you, Ton, for taking the time for answering everything.
Yeah, we go back to work and
Go
see
back
you.
to work.
Bye.
I will see you and.